Rockstar. Hey Rockstar. Hey Rockstar. Hey Rockstar. Hey Rockstar. Hey Rockstar. 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 Hey Rockstar, welcome. This is a storytelling platform designed to empower you to build yourself up physically, spiritually, mentally, socially, and financially. Why stories? Because stories live on. They are eternal. They are a powerful reminder of what one can accomplish when opportunity presents itself. So listen carefully, learn the lessons, apply them to the Big Five, and become the rock star of your industry. Rockstar. Hey. How are you today? Hey, Miguel, sorry. No fall asleep there. Guys, I don't want to take up too much more of your time because it is going to be a great show that we have for you today. Thank you for joining us here in our studios. Hey, Rockstar Studios up in Nashville, Tennessee. Guys, this is episode 16, and it is an interview with a rock star. This next rock star, guys, wow, what can I say? He is a husband, a father of 2 boys. He's a musician. He's a general contractor, a real estate investor, a business owner. He's the head lyrics person for the Belonging. Just kidding. And he is the self-proclaimed best friend to yours truly in the whole wide world. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to help me welcome Mr. Brian Weaver. How you doing, mate?
Hello. Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. It's been a great week. It's been a great day, and I'm actually excited to hear your story. Now, most people are probably asking, who is this guy, this handsome gentleman who is joining the rock stars? Oh, by the way, I'm not sure if I told you about Miguel. He's my co-star.
I did not notice that until you started talking to him.
I think he's more loved than me sometimes. People have been asking for us to give him his own social media platform. We'll see about that. But
good opportunity for him.
So Brian and I, we met in the streets. No, we met serving on a media team in our church about many years ago when we were just we were in a small little room having right next to the coffee station, and we were just kind of jam-packed there. I was TDing and directing the live feed service, and he was running lyrics and amongst other graphic things that required. And of course, coming along to where we're at today, media world at the Belonging has just been insane. That room alone is like, I love going there. Just such a cool vibe, such great people. And now, what it used to take 2 of us to do, now it takes like a whole team.
Yeah, there's like 15 people in there now.
but that's all right. But my favorite part about Brian is, well, you know, whenever you have a good person when you go to the movies and you just there's fun stuff on the movies happening, um, you got to comment to somebody. But
Mhm.
but yeah, and it's cool if your best friend or whoever you're with, they can like feedback and then y'all just kind of feedback on your own jokes and y'all are laughing hysterically. That's kind of what happened between you and I when we were serving together, especially whenever they had us coming back over and over again. It seems like every other Sunday and Tuesday we were serving, but that's okay.
Pretty
But
much.
now you've got
And the whole camera team had to listen to us banter, so that's all right.
oh man, sometimes the camera members come up to me like, dude, Josafat, your commentary is some of the best stuff ever. But also at the same time, we're like, sometimes we're like,
We're trying to
maybe
focus.
if this were ever to make it onto, I'm hoping that somehow Pastor gets to watch this and see how natural we are at interviewing and such. Because I think that if you and I had like a talk show interview at conference or something, I know they do the
I'm down
interviews,
for
but
that.
if we could like co Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon, and I just showed my
We'll
age
we'll
there.
just do our own interviews
So
when service is over.
we got Mr. LBP director Jose Sanchez talking about how Miguel is a true influencer. You hear that, Miguel? But anyway, today's show is not about you, Miguel, and it's definitely not about me because we have other episodes for that. Brian,
Yes,
just
sir.
I would like to know, just share a little bit about your journey on how you get to all these multiple titles that you have today.
Well, oh man, this is all right. How long we got here? 2 hours? 3 hours? What do we got?
Oh, my live stream cuts me off at 4 because I'm cheap. I don't want
Oh,
to pay for the
okay.
premium.
All right. That's okay. We got 4 hours. Man, how did I get to where I am? Well, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. And then we moved to Nashville. We've been out here about 6.5 years now. Moved out here for music, and kind of through that process, a lot of stuff shifted, and I just came to a realization of like, hey, I'm good at other things, so let's try to make those other things profitable. So, just long story short, started diving in little by little to different stuff. Started realizing what other things other than music that I was interested in and passionate about, and kind of little by little they started becoming income sources and started replacing music income, which was the point of life that I was at. But yeah, just started doing little things and kind of here and there, and realizing that we started learning what we were good at, what we weren't, and started actively pursuing those things that we, as in my wife Stephanie and I, as far as like investing in real estate, just started realizing what we wanted to do and went for it.
So now, Nashville, we've seen a different, just a rise and fluctuation in the real estate, especially during, we'll just say the 2020 uh,
Yeah.
event. Um, when things were crashing, because I was watching, and I have other friends that have also invested in real estate, and especially in projects you guys had. I'm just curious, did you guys find it difficult, or was there like just something different for you guys to continue on in y'all's business in that aspect?
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of always have our worst case scenarios for different situations. It's always the what if you have a tenant and they don't pay and this and that. It's hey, let's evaluate every situation without expecting it to happen, but let's still be prepared for it. So um, we the first time I went to investment, we'll take it back a little bit. The first time I went to an investment seminar, I was in my early 20s, and the guy gets up. There was only a few of us there. It was in his house, and he was just kind of teaching people about investing. And he gets up and he goes, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the real estate." And he was like, "Okay, that was a nice little play on words. He created the heavens and the earth." And he's like, "Why are we not investing in something that's always been here and it's really not going anywhere? So might as well start investing in it." So that was kind of our beginning of really diving into the real estate market. And for us, we always go with, I don't know if we heard it from somebody or what it is, but just the idea of like invest in what you know. And so for us, we personally know real estate. That's why we heavily invest in it. We don't do a whole lot in stocks just because I haven't put the time in to know it and and to realize it. So for us, real estate has been one of those things that we've been in it for a while. I've been I've had my real estate license for about 13, 14 years myself, and my wife is also licensed for about 12 years. So we have just been in the market. We started and when things started crashing back in 2006, 2007, when it was really bad. And people think 2020 was bad, but kind of 2007, 2008, that's when things were really bad. But I learned a lot from my brother during that time of like, you adjust to what the market is. So that was a time when a lot of people were getting out of real estate because it had just crashed. It was shifting. And so it's like, why would anybody start investing in a time like this? And that's almost 15 years ago type of thing. But for him, he just had this mentality of like, okay, I'm in it. What do I need to do to adjust? And so that's kind of always something we have in the back of our mind of like, what if something happens, which it did in 2020, what do we need to do to adjust? So at the time we had 2 Airbnbs that were going. And then within a matter of about 2 weeks, we had probably $30,000 in bookings just vanished like that. And so we're like, oh, okay, there goes all the income that we had going for that year. And it just kind of just wiped it out because, I mean, we had 6 to 9 months of 2 Airbnbs just booked out, and it just kind of went away in a matter of a week or two. So with that, we're like, okay, what's our plan B? We don't see this recovering anytime soon. So our plan B was really the idea behind it took place when we decided to purchase the units anyways. We bought them knowing, hey, if Airbnb goes to crap, which it did, we can still rent these out to a year-long tenant and we'll still be fine. So it's like one of those, hey, the profit might not be as much, but we're still going to be profiting, and we're still going to be okay. So that was kind of what we did. It was like, all right, let's float this out for 2 weeks. And then as things started progressing, we're like, all right, I'm calling my property management and getting them to book one of those, like to start renting out one of those units. So that's kind of what we did there, is just always having like, hey, what's our plan B? And I know a lot of people, they buy with the idea that it's always going to be at the top, and you have to kind of have this mentality. And again, it's not an expectation that things are going to go bad. It's just it's an awareness that, hey, I need to protect myself. I need to cover myself, and I need to be wise with my investment. And I think a lot of people get burned by the real estate industry because they don't go in with that aspect of what are all my different options I can take. So yeah, so for us, it was just like, okay, we know real estate, let's invest in it. Let's be flexible and know that, hey, it's not always going to be perfect, but we have exit strategies like for everything that we do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of our key.
Well, speaking of investments, what is probably the best investment you've ever made?
Best investment? Well, I will say the second best investment we ever made was a 16-foot box truck that somebody had offered us. We bought it for $500, and long story short, we kind of were able to use that to actually move out to Nashville in that truck. And we got out here and we ended up selling it for like $9,000. So as far as like a return on investment, that was definitely one of our best ones. But kind of outside of that, best investment I've ever made has been investing in myself. So we again, Stephanie and I, we've gone through a lot of these like personal development, and not really self-help, but just more leadership development courses throughout our life. And I went through my first one probably back when I was in my early 20s. So we're talking about maybe 15 years ago. Went through one. It was called Personal Mastery. And it's just kind of a funny thing. It's like mastering yourself, and it was just one of those things where it just went through, I mean, so much stuff that we can talk about here, but the biggest thing that I enjoyed about it is that they kind of talked about 3 different ways of learning. Is that there's informational learning, there's motivational learning, and then there's experiential learning. And so this course was not about informational. That's a lot of what school systems are, where you just kind of throw in information. Motivational is like you go to a motivational seminar and it's like, oh, I feel really motivated, but it just it doesn't last. It just dies out. But experiential learning is where you learn something based off your experiences. Like I think we all do, whether you experience an emotion because you had something with a relationship happen, and so based off that experience you're going to act differently, or how you behave just based off your experiences. And this could be a good or bad thing. Like you could go your entire life living based off that experience. So a lot of what this personal development stuff was on, they would go through experiential learning where they'd kind of set up these different scenarios. And the concept was how you do one thing in life is how you do everything in life. So it's one of those, like, how you show up here for this experiential thing, whether you think it's stupid or not, that's how you're going to show up at home. That's how you're going to show up at work. That's how you show up to your family. That's how you show up to your friends. That's how you show up in life. So it really just taught me a lot just about myself and who I am. And it wasn't am I right or wrong for thinking this way? It was just more of like, does this serve me or does this not serve me? And so for me, it was just so influential that I'd gone through a lot of this before even meeting my wife. And then when we started dating, I was like, it's kind of funny because she's like, we talk about, like, I gave her an ultimatum, but it wasn't one of those like, hey, you have to do this. But it was like, I have learned so much about myself through this. And if I'm going to be with somebody, I need them to be on the same level of understanding as I am. So it's like, hey, I really want you to go through this too. And she kind of went through it and realized, like, wow, I'm learning so much about myself and realizing like how beneficial this is. So, so much to it. But as far as like, hey, what's the best investment I made? It's been financially investing in myself and my well-being, in my education of like learning about myself.
I totally second that, man. I'm assuming you've read. Oh, I'm not sure. I shouldn't make assumptions. But have you ever read of The Richest Man in Babylon?
No, I have not.
It's a really thin book. It's just like a little story, but it talks about just different, this one man, or basically, just to quickly tell the whole story, a king blesses his kingdom with gold and everyone gets it equally, but because he wants everyone to succeed. But eventually with time, the gold winds up making its way towards one person, and he ghosts this one person, like, all right, I want to know your secret. Why are you the richest man here in Babylon? And he's like, well, and he talks about, in life, and it's basically his whole life. He shares the different disciplines or different things that he did to be able to accumulate this wealth. And one of the things he always said is, you pay yourself first. Now, I know Robert Kiyosaki and other money people are really big on sharing that. Always pay yourself first. And when I first started doing that, of course, us being a faith background, we give our tithe, and then after that, I set aside my 10% for myself, and then off of the 80%, that's what I pay the bills sometimes. Or of course, I do need to become better at budgeting. I hear you are a king at budgeting. That's what I've heard stories about your budgeting tactics.
Yes,
it's
we're
amazing.
We're very strict on our budget.
That's fine. That's fine. I have like a very loose budget. I'm sure it would freak you out if I showed you my budget. But back to that 10%, pay myself first. It has to do with, for investment, but more importantly, like, I like having that money aside because whenever a course does become available, I can jump into it and it won't cost me anything extra. It won't take out of bill money or food money or whatever money, because I already set aside for that purpose of investing. And what better way than investing in me first? So that's how I was able to pay for courses on sales on I actually did a real estate course, but I mainly went in because I wanted to learn more about tax liens, and then they took me to this whole other on how to flip houses, and I'm like, okay, they want me to pay more money, and I'm like, I'm okay. I think I got my money's worth. What I paid them, I think I got enough information back to do something about it. And a funny thing right now, you're talking earlier about you succeed or you fail. I don't know who said this. I can't think of the person, but one of my favorite quotes is basically, take the risk, because you will either win or you will learn. You won't lose. You will learn.
No, totally.
All right, so I dropped the ball earlier. Normally, I like to introduce people as what industry they're rock star in. And ladies and gentlemen, Brian Weaver here is in the industry. He's a rock star in the industry of doing what it takes to not work for someone.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I have
But
to ask, why are you involved in so many different jobs, careers, and not simply just one thing full time?
yeah, I don't know, it's just been my personality or what, but that's always been the question of like, so like, what do you do for work? And I'm like, I do whatever it takes to not have to work for somebody. I was like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, whatever it is, you make it up. um, yeah. So kind of a little backstory. Right after college, I went and did an internship at a Young Life camp. It's a high school youth ministry. And I got out of that, and um, I had majored in college to go into law enforcement. I wanted to be a police officer, but then after graduating, and yeah, maybe you didn't know that. So I was just a
Hmm.
studies major, but then I graduated a year early. So I was about to turn 21 right before, or I turned 21. Then I was about to graduate, and I was like, I'm not going to the police academy. So that's when I did this internship with Young Life, and kind of through that. I'd been playing music and stuff through college, like just kind of learning guitar and then doing my own songwriting on the side. But through that process, I met a good friend named Nate, who he was like, "Hey, play me some of your music." And so kind of played him some songs, and he's like, "Oh, this was really good. Like you should consider that." So that year was kind of just a journey of like realizing what I wanted to do with my life. And I got back and was like, I want to pursue music. And of course, my parents are like, "Oh, that's great." And it's like, "Well, what are you going to do for money?" It's like, good question. So I began doing the only thing I've ever used my college degree for, and that was substitute teaching, high school.
Same.
Um, yeah, there we go.
I was brave enough to do middle school too.
Oh man, I did little kids for one day, and I was like, nope, not doing that again. I'm doing high school. So started doing subbing for high school, and it was one of those that it was flexible enough to where if you didn't want to do something one day, you didn't have to. It wasn't like, hey, you need to come in 5 days a week. It was you can pick up jobs as you wanted them. But through that, I would be kind of building the whole music thing of like you go and you do your job during the day that pays money while you're kind of working your passion type of thing is what it seemed to be. Um, so just through that whole process, I just began doing random things. I started working for my brother, who he was doing real estate, and this is again when I started getting into it when the real estate market had crashed, and he was learning this whole idea called short sales. And he's like, "Hey, come over to my house and help fax these documents to banks." I was like, "Okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but sure." So I just started helping him out with that just to make money and just kind of doing random side hustles and just jobs, and just began realizing like, oh, I don't need to go get like a 40-hour week job to make ends meet. I can kind of do random stuff. So kind of and during that I did have jobs. I worked for like a bank, Wells Fargo, and other things. Or sorry, it wasn't Wells Fargo, it was Washington Mutual. But just began realizing like, okay, this 40-hour week thing, this is not,
Yeah.
I'm not cut out for that. I'm not cut out for, hey, we need you to be here this time to go through it. And that did not motivate me. And so just began learning my personality of like, okay, this isn't for me. But so fast forward, was doing music a lot more, and that became kind of like my full-time thing. As far as either filling and leading worship or playing shows and selling CDs and stuff like that. And then made this transition to move to Nashville about 6.5 years ago. And so Stephanie, my wife, and I kind of come out here, and we're in Nashville, and I'm doing music full time, and she had been doing real estate, but we kind of just had some savings set aside to where, hey, we can move to Nashville and just figure out what it looks like, and we'll be good for 6 months to a year. Don't really need to work per se. Let's just figure out what you like doing. And I remember specifically playing this small little I don't know if they're doing this outreach event, and I was sitting out in the audience, kind of listening to one of the other artists play, and I hear them start talking about like, oh yeah, I've been doing music, or I've been pursuing music for about 3 years, and is what this person's saying, and I'm just sitting here kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, 3 years. I'm like, man, I've been doing this for like 10 years, and like kind of right as I had that thought, and again, we're people of faith. I felt God to speak to me and just be like, hey, are you pursuing music, or are you pursuing me?
Mm, mm.
And to me, it was just like, it was this huge wake up call where I was like, I was like, oh, that's a good message to share with people. And I'm like, no, like that's for me. That's not like, that's not something to go motivate someone else with at the time. Like, no, that was confronting me where I was at. So it really shook me. It really kind of flipped my mentality of like, oh, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing with my career? And so just began kind of seeking that out of like, okay, what do I want to do? What am I good at? And began for me just kind of looking through the Bible of like, all right, God, like speak to me. What are some answers? And I just began realizing that one of the people in the Bible, Paul, he would go out and he would do ministry during the day, but then he would come back in his trade. He would actually make tents to provide for himself, to provide money for the people that he would go out and do ministry and do these other things with. And so that really shook me, because it was like seeing the separation of, he had his ministry that he enjoyed doing, but then he had this other thing that actually made money for him. And I realized at that time that I had kind of combined those two, and it wasn't a right or wrong thing. It was just more about, do I want this? Do I want my music to be my main source of income when it's also what I'm considering my ministry? And I felt this tension of, well, I say I'm doing ministry, but it's like, really I'm calling and trying to book churches and shows so that I can pay my mortgage. And so to me, it had this, like, I didn't like that. I didn't like that tension of that blend. And so I was like, okay, what can I do? What other trades am I good at? And I'm like, well, I'm good at just finding random things. And so talking to my wife, she had kind of started getting involved in real estate. And she's like, hey, I can't find a vendor who installs my signs. And in Arizona, where we came from, there's all these different companies that real estate agents hire them to go put signs in people's yards, and like when they have a listing that they're selling. And I was like, all right, well, let's start it. And so I was like, well, all right, I'll create a website and I'll start emailing real estate agents and saying, hey, this service is available. And I've kind of always ran with this look bigger than you are kind of aspect, and not in a arrogant kind of way, but it's like, look more professional than you might be.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're,
works.
whatever you're doing, make sure that the front of what you're doing actually looks good. Because if it looks cheap, then it's going to be expected that it's going to be cheap. So it's like, all right, I'll go create a website that actually looks pretty decent and start contacting people as though this has been a business that's around forever, even though I have nobody that I'm doing anything for. So that was kind of the start of like learning to do something. So I literally just started doing that, and started getting people who are like, oh, this is great service. This is so creative. You're such a smart person. I'm like, this happens all over the country. Just nobody was doing it here. So it wasn't like an idea I personally had. It was like, all right, nobody's doing this out here, so let's get into it. And it was funny. It a lot of people think like, but that must take so much money. It was like, I think I bought a website that was $12 for the year. Designed it myself. So like there was so little that went into it. And then there was no cost to start the business. I literally went and picked up something that somebody else owned and put it in someone else's yard. And so it's like, it didn't cost anything to start up. And so, it's like, how many people can go out and start a business where you pick up dog poop? And it's like, it doesn't really require much. Just go buy a shovel. And so it was just this mentality of like, okay, I can build this. And it's turned into a business where joined a guy bought into the business a year and a half ago, and we were partners, and it's been growing. So it's like, that's kind of operating on its own right now, where
wow,
not really having to do anything with it. So that was like kind of the start of it, of like, hey, let's get other sources of income going. And it's like, okay, so I started this random sign business and install signs. And it's like, all right, well, let's now that that's kind of going, let's get into real estate investments. And just random opportunities would pop up where Stephanie would go on a listing appointment and they'd be like, yeah, we just really want to sell. And she'd be like, hey, this is actually something my husband and I might be interested in. And we talked to him, and it's like, it worked out where I would go in there and fix it up myself. And I just realized like, hey, I actually really enjoy doing like that hands-on repair work and upgrading and stuff like that. And so that kind of transitioned into just different relationships I have with people, where it was like, hey, you should go get your general contractor's license. And my wife would always tell me that, but then it took somebody else to my business partner currently in that business to say, hey, you should go get your license. And so I went out and did that, and it was like, okay, now we're doing general contracting and we're building houses and doing renovations for people, and we have our real estate income. So it was really like okay, what else can we keep doing? And we've always been this, hey, we've always shot, and I don't know if it's something that we've heard from an investment seminar or if it's just a random number that we came up with, but we just shot for 7 income sources.
Nice.
Like whatever we're doing, we want 7 income sources, and we've kind of gotten to that point. And so as I was creating all these other things, music definitely got put aside for a while. But as now all these things are going, it's been awesome because it kind of took me back to why did I start doing music in the first place? It was like because I was passionate about it. I loved doing it, and it wasn't about getting paid. It was just like, hey, I just want to share music with people and encourage people. And so it's really allowed me to go back to that point of like, hey, I want to come out here, or I want to do this event. And it's like, well, what do you charge? I'm like, if you can give me something great. Otherwise, I just want to come out just because I enjoy that. And it's like, I don't have to worry about, can you pay for this, this, and this? And if it doesn't work out, I can't come. It's like, no, we have all these other things going so that I can actually do what I consider my ministry as because I enjoy doing it, not because I need to make money doing it.
Oh, most definitely. Speaking of business partner, I know who you're referring to, your latest business partner. I kind of want to get him on here to talk about some other things. But I haven't had a chance to talk to him because he's been a busy man since
yes, he is. He's very busy.
Since the incident that happened right around the holidays.
Yes, we'll let him share that with you.
I was gonna shake his head and like, oh wait, like never mind, I'll just give you a hug. But anyway, right now just so much popped into my head while you were sharing that part of your journey. First of all, I have a personal saying that I tell everyone. Well, when a get to becomes a have to, then at least for me, it becomes a I don't want to. So when something that I'm passionate about becomes something I'm dependent about to pay my bills, then once it becomes a job and no longer like a passion project, then it becomes like I don't love this anymore kind of situation.
Yeah,
and maybe it's just a childish way of me thinking about it, but that's definitely just something right now I was talking about. But it's great, and I think the book. I think I read that book once a long time ago, Multiple Streams of Income, and I think they hit on 7 different areas that you can build multiple streams of income. Maybe that's where you got the 7 from.
Yeah,
it's been
probably
a long time since I read that book, but it's really big. Did you ever try any MLM by any chance?
No, I haven't.
I was a sucker. I fell for it during college but I will tell you this. I did learn a lot. One of those things, you win or you learn. Yeah. I learned a lot during my experience with them. I grew a lot because they were constantly educating me. They were constantly giving me books to research and read. And I really love going to those conferences where you go and you meet a bunch of other people and you're hyped up on like energy drinks as they're just keeping you up forever and ever. And you're like cramped up in a hotel with 4 other guys that are as broke as you, but you're making it work. And you just felt so luxurious. But I enjoyed my time with that. I enjoyed my lessons I learned with that. I realized that I did want to be a business person, but then I didn't want to do the multi-level. I didn't want to try to just although to be fair, a lot of businesses you start with your inside network. You start with who you know, but not that's not your. I don't think that's everyone's goal. Like, oh yes, I want my whole family to support me in this business. But some people make it work, some people don't. By the way, I didn't say this at the beginning, but if there's anyone who is watching us on either Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, and you have a question, go ahead and type it into the comments, and towards the end of the show, we will try our best to answer your questions. I see a shout out for you right here, Brian.
That would be my mom.
My mom is watching too. My mom's been faithfully watching my show since episode 2.
That's so funny.
And my dad does too, although he doesn't know any English, but he's like, no, I still understand. Like, he does know English. He just pretends he doesn't. But we're going with this before I lose anything. Well, I mean, you've kind of already touched on this, but it's a question that's on the list. What motivates you?
Yeah. I mean, I think just the freedom to do what we want in life. is kind of what
Mm,
motivates me. So I know we were kind of talking beforehand about like what the daily things that you do, and honestly, I can't really consciously think of daily things that I sit down and like, okay, I need to make sure that I say this or I do this. I think everything has just been like I was talking about earlier, like it's been from experiential learning that's just kind of
mm,
subconsciously part of who I am now. And so it's just waking up and um and I think purpose is such a big thing with that. If you don't have a purpose, then it's like everything that you're doing is kind of lost. Like it's meaningless. It doesn't really add to anything. So when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh man, I got to do this and this today, or what's today have for me? It's almost like the lack of purpose is
mm.
what's causing that feeling or that lack of motivation. And so, um, one of the big thing that was ingrained in me for, I mean, through this leadership development stuff was, they had this formula per se where they talked about it and they said intention plus mechanism equals result. And so to define that, and a lot of what I'm big in is definitions of words, because we can be talking about the same thing, but if we have different definitions, then we're completely going to miss it. And I think that's a huge problem just
Wow.
in society in general,
Yeah.
is that we'll say the same word, but we have completely different definitions of it, and so neither of us are going to understand each other. And so that was one of the other reasons why I told Stephanie, I'm like, hey, I want you to go through this because I need to have the same definitions of what we're talking about, the same understanding. So so intention is like your deepest commitment. What is your deepest commitment in life? Or not even in life, just what is your deepest commitment? Plus your mechanism is just a how to, like how you get there. That equals your result, and your result is just pretty much what you get, like what you end up with. So as going through this process, they kind of realize that if you're like, what percentage of your deepest commitment plus your mechanism would equal 100% result? And we went through this like, oh, I think it's half of intention plus half mechanism will equal result. But what it really came down to is that it's 100% intention equals result. So it's almost like the mechanism, the how to, is completely thrown out of the picture when you actually look at what your intention is. If you're primarily and deeply committed to doing something, the mechanism doesn't matter. You're going to do whatever you can in order to get that result. So you're going to try a million things. There's an indefinite number of mechanisms out there to do just simple things. Like if you want to get from one side of the room to the other, there's a million different ways that you can get there. You can get there by skipping. You can get there by crawling. You can walk backwards. You can run. You can do 3 hops. You can do 4 hops. You can do 8 hops. You know what I mean? So it's just one of these, like, these are the mechanisms that you can get from point A to point B. But really, the mechanism doesn't matter. It's just of how intentional are you with wanting to get there. And so for me, that's been just a big thing of evaluating, okay, what do I want in life? And what you want in life can right now be seen in what you have. And so a
Mm,
lot of people go in this, well, no, I didn't want to do this. And it's like, well, your results show that you actually did want that. And so if you had a different intention, you would have a different result. And so it's a hard thing to grasp with, is evaluating. And again, it's not one of those like, you're doing this, you're doing this. It was more of a evaluating my own life of like, what do I have right now? Does this serve me? Does this not serve me? And if it doesn't, I need to change my intention or my commitment to what I'm doing in life in order to get a different result. And so it was, that to me is kind of like just the ingrained thing of like, okay, what do I want to do today? What is the result that I want? Okay, I need to set my intention. I need to set my commitment to doing that. And if I end up short on that result, then that means that my intention was actually something different. So I was competing with maybe something else in my life that's telling me, oh no, you're not good enough, or you can't do that. And it's realizing like, okay, I need to target what is competing
mm.
with what I want in life, and start changing those. So I actually don't even remember what your question was that you asked
No,
me.
no, no, no. That has to do,
But
that question was what motivates you, but
yeah,
no,
but
no,
yeah,
that's
it's
good
just
stuff.
motivating. Like, what do I want in life? And what I want is, I want my kids to grow up with doing what they love.
Yeah.
And for me, what do I want in life? I want to enjoy what I'm doing during the day. I don't want it to be an end to result or something like that. I like actually want to enjoy what I'm doing when I wake up and be like, oh, hey, we get to go work on this today. It's not, oh, I have to do this, is what kind of you were
Oh,
mentioning earlier. Um, yeah. So that's kind of what I wake up with every day and what I want in
that
life.
no, no, that's important. Also, you gotta be real with yourself, and I mean, some people they kind of like, well, let's just do it. At least you're doing something. Yeah, yeah, I can make it look like I'm doing something, but I want to see the numbers. I need to see results.
Yeah.
If I'm not getting
Yeah.
results, then I need to change something because this is gonna
Yeah.
be a waste of time, and I'm not gonna be. And that's why me, the way I've broken my life down is in. I changed it. I break it down to disciplines that I can focus on daily, because I know that that's changing me towards those results. Now,
Mhm.
another guy that I interviewed a while back was talking about how he treats life. He has a chef. He treats life like he's like every morning he's got to recalibrate the temperature. He
Mhm.
goes because that when you have that temperature gauge recalibrated, you will never veer off too hot or too cold. You will always stay true to your goal. And he goes, so that's kind of like in life. You got to refocus on your goal, or refocus where you want to go, and compare it to where you're at right now. Like, all right, have I been doing what I've been doing right now? Is it getting me to where I want to be? If not, then maybe let's just go and change it up to try to get back towards this final result. So, I mean,
Yeah.
this is just off book. Do you have any kind of like? I see you as a big picture kind of guy right now.
Mhm.
Although I know you also the fact that you budget and all that stuff, you also know how to break it down to smaller things. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to word this question. In my class, or not class, just learning on how
Mhm.
to become a high ticket closer. One of the things that they promote is having a morning formula, something to kind of pump you up. You know, your affirmations, your dream board, if you would, or however
Mhm.
you want to put it, so that whenever you are going through the nose, or you're going through the ditches, you're going through the grind, and you're not seeing the result right away, you got to go back to your motivation, or your formula. You got to see where you want to be to keep going, to keep pursuing, to keep pushing through. Do you have something like that set
Mhm.
up, or is it down? You're just like, hey, I'm Brian Weaver. I just know that I want to be awesome, so I normally do this to go this way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of as I mentioned, like and this could be something that I want to implement in my life. Of like, hey, maybe I do need to start with something. Like every day I am looking at this. I mean, I've done in the past I've done the vision boards, and it has like it's gotten me what I want. I did that with like my very first car. I wanted a Highlander. I was like, no, I want it to be blue. I want leather seats. I want a moonroof. Like I literally had it on my desktop on my computer for about a year, and then all of a sudden it came for sale at some other lot, and I got it. So it's like I've I've done that, and it's one of those where I think that's kind of a starting point of realizing that like physically having what you want in front of you is definitely a great starting point of actually seeing it. But then I think it's you can also kind of see into the unseen almost
Yeah,
aspect of like that's what I want, and I'm focused on it. I don't have to physically see it in front of me, but I just know that there's so many things that we want. And they also, I mean, one of the biggest things that helps doing that is when you marry a dreamer. when you're when I'm married to someone who, man, so I'm the analyst and she's like the dreamer. So she'll come up and be like, I want to do this, and I see us doing this, and I'm just like, and I look at all the details of it of like, how are we actually gonna like, okay, how are we actually gonna do that? I mean, she'll go from 1 to 1 million in a matter of like 10 minutes of just like the one type of concept of buying and starting a business, and like she now sees it of like having Amazon warehouse kind of thing, and I'm just like,
mm,
whoa, we just need to start with like getting one sale type of thing. So to me, it that's definitely been a beneficial thing of like being married to someone who shares the same understanding of like what we want in life, and what we want are really big things, and she's the one who can go dream it, and I'm the one who's like, okay, let's implement it to actually realistically get it. So
Mm.
it's kind of been a beneficial thing of like having that person to throw ideas off of. But again, that person has to have the same definitions of what you want. Otherwise, you're just going to be throwing empty
Yeah.
ideas at each other and completely frustrating yourself because you're not seeing things the right way. And that for us, it started with, again, like evaluating ourselves, like realizing how we see things. And it's one of those like for you, if you're looking and you have your sunglasses on right now, like if you were to look at say that does turn these white blinds behind me. If you look at that and you're like, those are brown, and I'm like, no, you're crazy, those are white. And you're like, no, I'm seeing them, like I can see them, they're brown. And I'm like, dude, no, they're white. It doesn't matter how much we go back and forth on it, because of the lens that you're seeing it through. You're always going to see it that way until you realize, hey, I'm actually wearing sunglasses that are making that color look different than what he's
Yeah.
seeing. And so for us, it's always been, and even for me, it's always been like, okay, what are the lenses that I'm seeing things through? And to evaluate that, like we're all wearing hundreds, thousands, millions of these lenses, and it's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
and again, it's not a right or wrong. It's just, that's what it is. And you have to realize, okay, how I see myself or how I see the situation, is this a positive thing? Is this serving me? And if it's not, I need to evaluate, okay, maybe I need to take these lenses off. And it can be simple things, as far as like, I grew up knowing that you rinse off dishes before you put them in the dishwasher. That's how I see it. And those are the lenses that I've kept on because that serves me best. And then you get cleaner dishes. But for other people, it might be like, no, you just stick it in the dishwasher, will clean it off. And it's like, it's not nobody's right or wrong. It's just a matter of like, that's how you operate in life. And you got to realize, okay, what are the things in life that are serving me? What are the things that are not serving me? And it's really been, okay, this isn't working. Let's try something different. And not even try it. Let's do something different. I say the word try, but I hate the word try because it's kind of like one of those wasted words. As Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try. And it's so true. It's like, you're either doing something or you're not doing it. It's just like, hey, Hosa, try to stand up right now. And it's just like,
I can't. I'm comfortable.
no, don't stand up. Try to stand up. And it's like, what is trying? It just looks like wasted energy, and it just looks, it's ridiculous. It's like trying does actually nothing. It's like either stand up or don't stand up. Like those are your two options.
Yeah.
And even going forward in life, it's like, hey, you're talking about like with sales and stuff, like my friend Nate, the one who kind of motivated me to do music, he said one day, he's like, whenever you're trying to like book stuff or whatever it is with music, if I was trying to play somewhere or get sales when in different businesses, it's like the answer's already no if you don't ask. And so you might as
That is
well ask and
true.
see if you can change it. And so it's like the answer's already no because you haven't even asked. So why don't you ask and get that and see if you can change it? Like there's no, like the only risk is words. And it's like, oh, okay, I got shut down. So yeah, so that's kind of been just a big thing of like, okay, just go do it. And if it doesn't work, do something different to get a different result.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, do you find taking risk is something easy to do for you?
Um, yeah, because I mean, I know I kind of mentioned up front, like we just do a risk assessment, like
Ah,
even with our real estate stuff of like, well, what happens if everything goes down and you end up losing all your properties or this and that, and it's like, okay, then we lose. Who cares? Like, I'll go get a job at McDonald's if I need to because they're always hiring across the street from me. You know, it's like
right?
it's just having that mentality of like, there's always another way.
Yeah.
There's always another way. Okay, if this business fails and if all the tenants stop paying, and then okay, properties get foreclosed and I don't have a good credit score anymore, and you have to file bankruptcy or whatever. It's like, it is what it is. Okay, let's find a new result. Like
Yeah.
let's do something else. Let's be intentional on something else and get a different result. So for us, it's like the risk is still there, and obviously nobody likes losing money.
No.
But it's like, hey, it is what it is, and if you can evaluate all the different ins and outs and exit strategies, then you're limiting your risk to where stuff that you're doing is not really even risky anymore.
Correct. Yeah, the more you educate yourself, the greater chance you can take and risk less, I guess, or it's less risk because you're
Yeah.
doing an educated decision, and then it becomes more like a what's the word? It becomes more like a experiment. Like, all right, well, I know
Hmm.
this. I want to try this out. Then you can start looking at it. Of
Yeah.
course, if you get wins, that's awesome. If you don't, no, no, it's just good stuff. And man, this could open up a whole other can of worms. Um, in this
Yeah.
atmosphere, I definitely we need to bring you back to just talk about risk management or just anything else
Yeah.
because I'm before I go into my final questions for you,
Yeah.
I was thinking back to right now when you were talking about you know, uh, if you lose it all, well, that's not the end of the world. You can just
Hmm.
do something not as sexy, something not as pleasant to still go by, and that's kind of the attitude that I took once I lost my cool job. First of all, I got to say
Hmm.
thank you to you because you helped me out when I was in between work about 3 years ago. Whenever I I was freelancing and doing things, and that sign business, he
Hey,
gave me
you want
some
to install
work,
some
and
signs
I,
for
I
me?
got to
Okay.
I got to put some signs out for you. It was crazy, it was fun. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it, but it definitely beat. I'd rather put signs out than giving subpoenas to people because that's a whole
Yeah.
different ball of wax
Yeah.
there. But then once I ever got my job, things started helping my full time position at TPAC, and just it started going. I'm like, oh, awesome, I got it. I mean, I have a title that people are like, that's a respectable job. Like, cool. I guess I'm a grown up now.
Yeah.
Whatever. And thankfully, I got advice from John, who we're gonna get him on the show to get some
Mm.
financial advice on how to help people get out of debt. Winkler.
Mm.
But talking to him, he helped give me some advice to help budget and start getting a game plan. And my finances were growing.
Yeah.
It was good. I thought I had it made. And then of course, stuff happened. 2020 happened, and I lost it
Hmm.
all. But I was in a better place to be able to survive as long as I did without employment, um, because of the of being ready for that,
Hmm.
of of learning that such. But I got to a point where I was trying to just find some kind of work, and people kept asking me, well, what do you want to do? I mean, what are you passionate about? What are you this? And like, well, I am passionate about this, but I'm not expecting to make money
Hmm.
of this because I don't want this to become my job right now.
Yeah.
And like, so I just like, look, I just wanted to do something that'll pay the bills. And I just started sending my resume to random places that I probably wouldn't even apply for. And now I
Yeah.
work at a dental lab. But I'm having a great time. I
There you
love those
go.
guys. I mean, they're so. I mean, not to get. They're Korean owners, but they're just so into their work. And here's my favorite thing about them. I think it's the cutest thing. And yes, I did use the word cute because I'm comfortable in myself as a man. But every time they hand me a paycheck, they hand me a physical check. They don't direct deposit. And on
Yeah.
the outside, and they seal it in an envelope. They give it to me, and outside there's a note that says "Thank you for helping us out." And then they'll
Mm.
they'll say things, and then they'll like kind of bow to me and give it to me like "Thank you for helping us." Like it's just a sense of honor and respect, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
wow, I never got something like that. Well, I'm not saying that I get
Yeah.
the in other jobs is like the paycheck is your thank you kind of situation, whereas
Yeah.
this was like
Yeah.
cool. And but I'm no longer dependent on that. But no, what I wanted to go with that story is I
Hmm.
once heard a radio show where this guy was calling in to ask advice from a money guru or just investor guru, a guy who's a entrepreneur up in Canada, and they're like, well, what do I do? He's like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, I'm passionate about being an actor, and I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm trying to make a career with this.
Hmm.
And he goes, well, then, I mean, until that goes off, why don't you work at McDonald's? Like, well, I don't like it. I don't want to work at McDonald's because of that. And he answered, he goes, listen,
Yeah.
one thing you got to understand, you need to get over yourself. If your
Mm.
passion obviously ain't paying you, you need to find something that will pay you
Hmm.
money. And you know what? If you're really good and you make a lot of money, then you can do your passion and still not worry about paying bills. Like, get the bills done. He's like, man up, get the bills done, do what you got to do
Yeah.
to pay the whatever. And then if you have money, or figure out how to make more money so that you can do the passion without worrying if it makes money. And
Yeah.
I like that because that's kind of the vibe that I got from you. That if anything were to happen, it's okay
Yeah.
as long as I have breath, as long as I have hands, as long
Yeah.
as I can act, I can go in there and get a job and get the
And
job done.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like again, back to the intention equals result. Like what's your deepest commitment in life? Like, oh, I want to do acting. It's like, okay, you will do whatever it takes to get that result. You will go work at McDonald's, you will go work at Dunkin' Donuts, you will do all these different things in order to line yourself up with getting that result. So I think we always look at, well, this is a result I want, and again, the mechanisms are indefinite, they're limitless. But I think a lot of times people put a lot more attention on what mechanism do I need to do in order to do that. It's not about the mechanism. It's about what are you actually committed to doing.
Yeah.
And if you're committed to doing that, your results will prove that eventually. And if you're not committed to doing that, again, your results will prove that. And so it's really a personal responsibility of like, you're responsible for yourself. Like, I mean, sometimes you got to just tell people like, grow up, like do what you need to do to get what you want in life. And sometimes that's working a job that you hate. And it's like, if that's getting you one step closer to doing it, to doing what you want to do in life, then it's worth it. It's like, again, it's looking at kind of the big picture type of thing there.
I like that. I have a question here for you.
Yeah.
Let's go and put it on here. Brian, what area or facet of real estate would you consider low risk for someone who is just looking to start in the field?
Ooh. I would honestly say, to start in real estate investing is buy your own house for yourself. I would say that's the first and easiest step that anybody can take to investing in real estate is get started by buying your own house. So, I mean, a lot of things with that, but as far as like what's going to cost to purchase a house as an investment versus what it's going to cost to purchase a house that you're going to live in, significantly different versus a 20% down payment if you're wanting to invest in it and not live in it,
Yeah.
versus the potential of 3.5, in some areas 0% down to buy a house that you're going to live in. And so kind of going with that, like you can utilize where you're at to just get in the game by buying your own house. And then along with buying your own house, you can do what's called house hacking, where you rent out a bedroom in your house. And so I think a lot of people think like, oh, I need to buy investment properties and rent those out for $1,200 a month. And it's like, yeah, you can get to that point, but why don't you just start with, if you only need 2 bedrooms and you have a third one, instead of making it a guest room, why don't you rent it out for $400 or $600 a month and start making money off that? Like you're already having to pay to live in your own house, so might as well make money off somebody else living there with you. My wife and I probably for the last 6.5 years, only maybe 7 of those months, we have not had somebody renting a room from us at some point. So I think the first 6 months of our marriage where we didn't have anyone living with us. And then there was a guy that we knew from our young life who was looking for a place to live. And we're like, hey, we got our upstairs bedroom that we're not using. Like, you can rent it out. So we rent it out to him for like $350 a month. And we're like, hey, this is great. We're making $350 a month, but just renting out a room. And it's like, it didn't do anything else to us. And so we've kind of continued that. So even now we have someone who rents our downstairs bedroom, and it's like, it's just kind of been a part of our life of like, okay, hey, if you want to get started with something, like that's the easiest way to do. It's called house hacking. Or you buy a house and like for you, single guy, it's like go buy a 4-bedroom, rent out 3 rooms. And now if you're paying $1,500 a month for your mortgage, but you have 3 rooms that are being rented out for $600 a month, you're now making $300 to live in your own house. And it's like, oh, okay, that seems pretty low risk. And if those guys move out, well, you qualified to buy that house anyways on your income. So you're still able to afford the house, even if no one's living there. It's like, oh, okay, I see this as a win-win. So for me, the first investment I ever made was buying my own house. And I kind of did exactly what that example was. I rented out 3 of the rooms, and we split utilities, and I made like $200 a month off of living in my own house. And then when we got married, we moved into the house that Stephanie had owned, and we rented out the house that I moved out of. and that was kind of like the start of our investing. So it didn't even start with, hey, we're gonna buy a bunch of different properties. It was like, let's start with buying our own house and kind of move on from there. So that's kind of my advice. And then, I mean, you can get into it really deep, but as your house appreciates, you can use that equity and go buy real estate, like investment properties that you're not living in.
I guess let me piggyback on that one. What if you're a family man already and you have all the rooms full with kids? Besides buying your own house, what would be another step two, I guess?
Yeah, step two. I mean, move to a different house and rent out the one that you were living in. And the reason I say that is, again, it goes back to the whole, how much money is it going to cost up front to purchase a house? So you can buy a house with an FHA loan at 3.5% down. So if you buy your house and you're like, hey, we don't have enough room here, or we need a bigger house as it is, instead of selling that house, why don't you rent that house out as you go buy another house that you're going to live in with only 3.5% down? Because if you're going to stay in that house and you're like, I want to buy an investment property, you're going to need about 20% down. So unless you're sitting on 30,000 cash, which most people aren't when it comes down to that, as far as like just a basic how-to, it's like, instead of selling your house to go buy a new one, how about you rent the current house out that you're in and then go buy the house that you want?
Awesome.
So kind of my piece of advice there. Yeah. So personally for us, it's like where we're at now, we will never sell another house. So even if we move out of the house we're in, we're going to rent it out. So it's more valuable to us to hold on to a house because, again, we're in it for the long game.
Yeah.
That's why we personally don't really do the flip game. We do refinance it and hold on to it and rent it out long term because we want to average at least one house a year, because it's like, hey, in 30 years when we're looking back, it's like that's our retirement. So our kids are going to be able to hold on to these properties. They're going to be paid off, and they're going to be paying for their college if they go to college, and it's going to be paying for our retirement. And that's kind of how we do it. Like, we're in it for the long haul.
Refinance it. Is that what you would consider good debt?
Yeah.
Have you heard the argument between good debt and bad debt? Yeah.
Good debt.
I've been sharing that with my audience, and a lot of people don't understand. Like, no, there's a difference. There really is a difference.
Yeah, I mean, a mortgage on a house is a debt, but like for us, we bought our house 6.5 years ago for $150,000, and now we could turn around and sell that for $300,000. So yes, we have a debt because we're paying a mortgage on the house, but if we were to go and sell it, we would profit a whole lot more than what we put into the house anyways. So that's kind of the difference of, like, your credit card is bad debt. There's actually, like, there's no return on it.
Yeah.
You can't sell your credit card debt and make money off of it, but you can sell debt on your house.
That's true. Unless you're a credit collector.
Good point. But yeah, it's pursuing, and again, this could be a whole other thing where you get into we do a lot of stuff that follows Dave Ramsey, and we do a lot of stuff that he would kill us for. So
same here. I mean, yeah. I listen to everyone and I take out the good, and there's things I'm like, I don't quite agree with this.
Yeah.
But
and again, it's like, invest in what you know. And for us, like, kind of a final takeaway, like, we intentionally don't spend money. We look to invest it in everything that we do. So it's one of those, like, I don't spend money on my bills. I invest it on my bills, because those are things that are pushing us towards getting what we want in life, and they're serving a higher purpose. So it's like, it's just really taking that mentality change of, like, am I spending my money or am I actually investing my money? And it'll help you even go through your budget of, like, is this an expense or is this an investment?
I remember one time you posted, and sorry that I'm just putting your laundry out there, but I thought it was the funniest thing. You posted, I'm not sure if it was an anniversary or just something that you guys were celebrating. And you're like, well, in honor of this, we want to celebrate by buying another house or something like that. You're like, that's what we do.
For Stephanie's birthday.
That's what it was.
Happy birthday, I bought you a house.
I'm like
Yeah, it's
that.
just
That's a rock star right there.
yeah, we're like that's our best. Yeah, it's kind of come into play the last 2 years that we've ended up pretty much closing on a house like right on her birthday or right around it. So it's like, happy birthday, we bought you another rental house.
That is awesome. All right, well, you kind of already covered my main question that I ask, and I like the way you covered it. When the question is when I ask everyone what disciplines or habits they have that become canon in their day to day. Is there anything you'd like
Hmm.
to add on to that? But I know what you said earlier about, well, I just really
Yeah.
don't have any to do list.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just ingraining something in you so deep that it doesn't have to be a daily thing put in
Mm,
front of you. It's just a part of you. And so I think that was the biggest thing that we learned with all this development, leadership courses and on training. It was like it wasn't motivating me or it wasn't information that was put in front of me. It was an experience that I've been able to keep with me. I mean, I can still go back and feel the exact same emotions like as I was sitting in that course, and that's been 15 years. Like
wow.
I can still picture everything. I can put myself back in that experience from that room as though it was yesterday, and I can talk about it as though it was yesterday. And we're talking about this is 15 years ago. And so I think it's when you ingrain something so deep in yourself that it just becomes a part of who you are. It's not necessarily. Sorry, I think my AirPods are dying because we've been on this for so long.
Let me unmute you real quick. All right,
Am I back?
you are.
Back. Yeah, it's just a
Wow,
matter
the audio quality is so different now. Hold on, let me
of
see if I can. Let me see if I can put the cancel.
to change this. We went too long, host. Some of my AirPods died on me.
Oh, well, my AirPods last longer than an hour.
I know I've been on the phone with them all day today too.
I kid, I kid. Anyway, we finish your thought. We're about to hit the end of the show
But
anyway.
yeah,
It's,
it's just doing something that ingrains it in you so deep that you don't necessarily need a reminder of that daily. And again, there's other. I mean, there is stuff that I do not to like motivate me, but like important stuff like okay, what's feeding you? Like for me personally, like am I in the Word? Am I reading the Bible? And I can tell when I go through those seasons where you kind of neglect doing that, how it's like,
yeah.
man, I don't feel like I have that purpose, that same drive that I had. And so a lot of it is like, okay, I need to go back and who do I start listening to? So like for me personally, it's I've been listening to like John Bevere again recently because he's
Mm.
just been one of my favorites for just really kind of igniting a fire like spiritually in me and realizing what I want. So yeah, it's just being consistent and being, I think, aware of where I personally am at in life. And again, it's that whole thing like, is this serving me? Yes or no? And if it's not, then it's like, okay, let's shift something to get to where I want to be.
Okay, you got another shout out here.
Uh oh, hey Gary.
Sup, Gary? You're a rock star. Thank you for commenting on our show today. You've been giving a lot of good jewels, a lot of good gems, and I can see like future shows and future talks that we can talk about later on. But I mean, just
Yeah,
some
definitely.
good stuff in itself. Another question I like to ask all my rock stars is, what is one simple thing or piece of advice that our listeners can start practicing today that'll make them the rock star of tomorrow, or
Yeah,
help
I mean,
make them?
man, one simple piece. I think it's just a lot of what we've already been talking about, what I've already kind of been mentioning of just that self evaluation of like, are you happy with where you're at in
Mm,
life? And if you're not, what do you need to do to change that? And just evaluating like what's your current situation? What are the results that you have? And if you can say I'm satisfied with that, then continue doing what you're doing. But if you can't say, hey, I'm actually okay with where I'm at, start evaluating how maybe it's the lens that I'm seeing. Do I need to remove what I'm seeing about myself? Do I need to remove about what I'm seeing about jobs, about my passion, about my future? And just yeah, it's just kind of a like start with yourself, like invest in yourself, whether that's just taking time to process where am I at in life, or it's actually like, hey, I'm gonna buy this course or I'm gonna treat myself to something just to say, hey, I'm actually worth something to me. And again, like, is what you're doing in life, just evaluating, does this benefit me, or does this not benefit me? Is this something I'm spending and it's an expense, or is this something that's actually an investment in my life? And that could be, I mean, relationships. Is this
Yeah.
relationship serving me? Is this not serving me? And if it's not, get rid of it. Like, it's not a matter of, and you don't have to be rude or mean to people in doing that. It's just more of like hey, I need to look out for me. If you're not looking out for yourself, nobody else is really actively putting you as the priority in their life. You got to
Yeah.
put you first. And it's not a selfishness thing. It's just a matter of like self-care of, if I can't be where I want to be, if I can't be 100%, I'm no good to anybody else.
Yeah.
And so if you can't invest in yourself, if you can't say, you know what, sometimes I actually do need to put myself first so that I can, and it's not so that I can do what I want to do. It's so that I can be beneficial, I can be helpful to
Oh
other
yeah.
people. And the best gift that you can give anybody else is a better you. And
Mm.
so it's not a matter of, oh, I can give time. And even for my spouse and for my kids, I can't go buy something and buy it for them that's going to be a great gift. Like, literally the best gift I can give, if anybody around me, my kids, my wife, my friends, anybody around me, the best gift I can give them is a better me. And so
Mm.
it's like, okay, I need to focus on improving me so that I can also pour that out and show other people and improve them.
That's going on a T-shirt right there. The best gift you can give is a better you. No, seriously, and I guess to simplify the thought
Yeah,
is because I've done that. I've had to step back and ask myself, all right, Josaf, are you happy where you're at right now? If the
yeah.
answer is yes, cool. Let's keep going forward. But I was at a point where I'm like, no, I really am not. Then I'm like, all right, then what should we do? What needs to change
Yeah,
to
and
get there?
yeah, and even with that, I mean, you can go into, like, my wife and I like talking about kind of like the bullseye relationship aspect, where
Mm.
you're in the middle, and then there's all these different circles that are on the outside. So you have your closest friends who are kind of like on that first ring, and then you have like kind of your acquaintances and stuff like that. And it's not a matter of, hey, this relationship right here, you're cutting it off completely. It's just that, hey, you might be in the second ring, but for this point in time, like, this isn't the healthiest thing for me. I need to move you out a couple rings. And it's not a discounting that person or cutting them off completely. It's just a saying, hey, for where I'm at in life, I need to kind of push you out a little bit because this relationship is not serving me well. And then maybe there's a point in time where that person comes back in because they're at a different place in life, you're at a different place in life. But just not only with relationships, it's like
Yeah.
evaluating the bullseye of your own life of like, what are the closest things to me? Is this serving me? Yes, keep it there or move it closer. If it's not serving you, move it out a little bit.
Whew, good stuff, man. Brian, this was a good show. You give some fire advice. Now the last question. I
Yeah.
I don't even know if you want people to find you, but if you want people to find you, where could they find out more about you?
So my phone number, I'm just kidding. Uh, Facebook, I mean, it's a good place. Kind of Instagram. I mean, we have our construction company is W&P Construction. That's on Instagram. You can kind of follow some of the builds and stuff that we're doing. It's also on Instagram or on Facebook. Um, Nashville Post Company, if you really are a real estate agent and you want to have us install your signs. And then music, kind of find stuff anywhere. Brian Weaver. Oh, and P instead of W.
And P.
The
My bad.
and Weaver and Portillo.
Shh. No one's supposed to know who that person is.
So yeah, it's our construction stuff where we're kind of doing renovations and building awesome houses and doing fun stuff like that.
Like that, or do you use the and sign?
We use the and sign, but
Oh,
hey, that works. It's okay.
that must be you're working with Latino. I got you.
Yeah. But yeah, so just kind of online, or if you want to listen to my music, just put out a new single just a few weeks ago. So that's on Spotify. It's called Bulletproof.
That
So
was
still
pretty.
doing
I did
that.
hear it.
Yeah, so still doing music, out on this tour called Marriage Date Night, where it's two comedians and then I'm doing music with it. So we're kind of traveling the country and doing date nights
Nice.
for married couples. So you can check that out to see if we're coming anywhere near you.
All right. Don't go anywhere. I just got to do a little closing stuff.
All right.
I'm gonna mute you for a little bit, y'all. This was a great show. I guess gotta give a shout out to Low Budget Productions, who is the umbrella that Hey Rockstar is under. If you are interested in listening to other podcasts, go check them out right now. Go and follow and like their page, and you'll have access to some other podcasts. And if you're a podcaster looking for someone to help you out, message us and we will gladly help you guys out, set you up, and get you on your way to share your message, to share your story. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. My mouse just died on me, and it's a wireless one. So let's see how we're gonna end the show without me getting this thing working. All right. This is the professional part of the show. After I've muted Brian. Oh, this is not cool, y'all. Oh, here we go. Woo! Got it. Anyway, everyone, thank you for tuning in tonight. It was a long show, but it was a great show. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, that was you? Private tab. We love it. So, once again, thank you for coming. My name is Josafat Emiliano, all the way from Nashville, Tennessee, to your homes, to your cars, to your hearts. We just want to say much love and many blessings. Have a great night, y'all.